City Council meeting. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I'd like to take note of changes that have been made in response to states of emergency and executive orders that provide guidance around physical distancing. So our meeting is not taking place in council chambers, but rather through the use of video conferencing. During this time, we are continuing to offer meeting access to the public by posting meeting information and materials on the city's website and broadcasting our meetings live on the City Council's YouTube channel and sharing on our Facebook page. Note that we're starting our meeting a little later than originally scheduled. We had a significant number of speakers at tonight's Speak to Council, and we're required to go through the entire list before commencing this meeting. As there are no speakers on the B list, we covered the A list and there are none on the B list. There won't be additional speakers after we're concluding tonight. Now, the meeting will come to order and I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Evans.
Present.
Councilmember Gruber.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Lupien.
Here.
Councilmember Ortiz.
Here.
Councilmember Patterson. Councilmember Pio.
Here.
Vice President Lightfoot.
Present, ma'am.
President Scott.
Here, I ask council to please join me for a moment of silence as we reflect on the local and national movements around police accountability and those unarmed civilians who lost their lives, among them George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Rayshard Brooks. Councilmember Ortiz, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of the minutes by Councilmember Lupien. Councilmember Lupien?
Yes. I'm sorry. I did not read the script and realize that was on me today. Can you?
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Resolve that the minutes of the regular meeting of May 12th, 2020 be approved as published in the official sheets of the proceedings. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record. The following documents are hereby directed to be received and filed. The mayor submits the following: quarterly report, schedule of revenue and expenditures, May 31st, 2020. The council submits disclosure of interest forms from Councilmember Evans on introductory number 201, introductory number 204, introductory number 205, and introductory number 207. Councilmember Gruber on introductory number 233, Councilmember Harris on introductory number 224, introductory number 233, introductory number 234, introductory number 238, and introductory number 240.
It's time for the presentation and reference of petitions and any other communications. Are there any petitions?
Yes, President Scott, I submitted a petition with 71 names to the clerk's office requesting we make Rochester more walkable during COVID-19 by closing side streets to pedestrians only.
Thank you. That petition will be received and filed. Now we'll move on to report. Are there any other petitions? All right. That petition will be received and filed. We'll move on to reports of standing committees and actions thereon. Councilmember Evans, the Finance Committee report, please.
Yes, Madam President, and to members of council. The Finance Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 190, authorizing submission of the 2024 Consolidated Plan 2021 Annual Action Plan and the Citizens Participation Plan amended 2020 to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development and the execution of grant agreements. Introductory number 191, authorizing an agreement for fireworks displays. Introductory number 192, authorizing an agreement to establish a public electric vehicle car share program. Introductory number 193, authorizing an agreement for economic development and urban entrepreneurship consulting services. Introductory number 234, a revenue anticipation note, ordinance delegating to the Director of Finance the powers to authorize the issuance of $100 million in revenue anticipation notes of the City of Rochester, New York, or so much thereof as may be necessary, in anticipation of the receipt of certain revenues for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021, and to prescribe the terms, forms, and contents, and provide for the sale of such notes. Introductory number 235, authorizing competitive grant applications. Introductory number 236, a resolution approving the 2021 debt limit for general municipal purposes with an exception for certain capital projects. And introductory number 244, a revenue anticipation note ordinance delegating to the Director of Finance the powers to authorize the issuance of revenue anticipation notes of the City of Rochester, New York, in anticipation of the receipt of certain aid revenues, and to prescribe the term, form, and contents, and to provide for the sale of such notes. The Finance Committee recommends for consideration the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 189, approving the 2020 through 2024 Consolidated Plan, 2021 Annual Action Plan, and the Citizen Participation Plan amended 2020. The following entitled legislation is being held in the Finance Committee. Introductory number 237, adoption of the budget estimates for municipal purposes for the 2021 fiscal year, appropriation of sums set forth therein, and approving commercial refuse fees. Introductory number 238, adoption of the budget estimates for school purposes for the 2020-21 fiscal year and the appropriation of sums set forth therein. Introductory number 239, levying taxes for municipal purposes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2021. Introductory number 240, levying taxes for school purposes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2021. Introductory number 241, local improvement ordinance, street cleaning, street and sidewalk snow removal, and hazardous sidewalk repair commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2021. Introductory number 242, confirming the assessments, amounts, and charges to be inserted in the annual tax rolls for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30th, 2021. Introductory number 243, amending the municipal code with respect to parking fees. This report was respectfully submitted by Council members Lachey D. Harris, Michael A. Patterson, Vice President Willie J. Lightfoot, Vice President Loretta C. Scott, and myself, Council member Malik Evans.
Thank you, Councilmember Evans. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 189, legislation approving 2020-24 Consolidated Plan, 2020-21 Annual Action Plan, and the Citizen Participation Plan. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 190, authorizing the submission of 2020-24 Consolidated Plan, 2020-21 Annual Action Plan, and the Citizen Participation Plan to HUD, and the execution of grant agreements. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 191, legislation authorizing an agreement for fireworks displays. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, say nay.
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 Roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Nay.
Councilmember Harris,
yes,
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
yes,
Councilmember Patterson, Councilmember Patterson,
Your volume is not working, Councilmember Patterson. He's shaking his head
An
yes.
affirmative.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes, ma'am.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 6-3, I believe.
The clerk-
7-2.
7-2. The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 7-2 into the record with Councilmember Gruber and Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Okay. Introductory number 192, legislation authorizing an agreement for a public electric vehicle car share program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
aye,
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 193, legislation authorizing an agreement for economic development and urban entrepreneurship consulting services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
aye,
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1.
Was that Councilmember
Oh, I'm sorry, I needed a roll.
Ortiz?
Yeah.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
yes,
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
yes,
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes, ma'am.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 234, a revenue anticipation note ordinance for the Rochester City School District. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
abstain,
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
yes,
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Just for clarification, what number is this?
234.
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Introductory number 235, legislation authorizing competitive grant applications. All in favor, please say aye.
aye,
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 236, a resolution approving the 2020-21 debt limit for general municipal purposes with an exception for certain capital projects. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 244, a revenue anticipation note ordinance for the city of Rochester. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
yes,
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
yes,
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes, motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
I'll call on Finance Chair Evans for an amendment to introductory number 237, legislation adopting the budget estimates for municipal purposes for the 2021.
I'm sorry, President Scott, that's was accidentally put in the wrong order and updated on your sheet. It must be discharged before it's amended.
Okay.
Yes, so
there-
Madam President, I make a motion to discharge item number 237 from committee.
Is there a
Second
second?
that. Second that, Madam President.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Now we will look at the motion as amended.
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion to amend item 237, transferring $129,000 from the Administration for Police Overtime for Special Events to drives, and transferring $750,000 from the Police Department for recruit classes to contingency.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion.
Councilmember
call, please.
Lupian,
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 8-1.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Councilmember Evans? Let's see. or did we
Yes,
vote on-
Madam President. Yes, Madam President, I make a motion to discharge item number 238 from
Oh,
committee.
I'm sorry, everyone. Just a quick note. You've discharged and amended 237, and now
We
I
need to
believe
vote as amended, right?
President Scott wanted to offer some folks the opportunity to make comment.
So before we vote on 237 as amended, I offer my colleagues the opportunity to make comments if desired.
On 237,
That's the city budget.
so it's not 238. The city budget is not 238. It's
The school
237.
district budget is 238. The city budget is 237.
Got you.
No, Madam President, the only comment I would make is I would like to thank the council members and the administration for their diligent work around this. We've come a long way. Obviously, we have more work to do, but this is a start. Thank you.
I would comment that a lot of work has been put into this budget. This is significant. And we all are looking at it, I think, with a different eye. We know that there's a lot of work ahead of us. There's some people who are disappointed that we did not make the kind of changes that they were looking for. But I would like to assure all that we're well aware of the impact and significance of where we are at this point in our history and what lies ahead of us and how we need to proceed in order to ensure that there are some impactful changes made going forward.
President Scott, may I say one thing?
Oh, certainly, please.
I'd just like to comment. I'd like to thank all the folks from Speak to Council, and as all the council members know, we've received hundreds and hundreds, maybe inching towards thousands of emails over the last couple of weeks. And so much of what we heard was people begging and pleading for us to reimagine what policing looks like in really smart and thoughtful ways, as we see happening across the country. The only point that I would like to make is that what we're doing tonight is the beginning and it is not the end of our work in redirecting funds from RPD to community-oriented programming. There's a lot of urgency around the budget vote tonight, but this is not a short-term process. And I think even if we set our eyes to the cities that have committed to some major work around this, like Minneapolis and San Francisco, when you read between the lines, there's a clear recognition from them, those cities, that they will need months and months of planning before there can be any major implementation of some of this reimagining of police work. That's why I'm really grateful to this council and to the administration that we've been able to carve out dollars for a task force that will be able to assess and analyze these very things. And I think we will be able to implement some swift changes on pace with how a lot of other cities are doing it right now in this national moment.
Thank you. Vice President Lightfoot.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to say that I want to commend the mayor and her staff, Chris Wagner, the budget director, all of the individuals, employees, over 3,000 employees that work for the city of Rochester, all of the essential workers. I want to remind people that this budget was done during a pandemic. We are still in a pandemic. That's why we're having this meeting virtually tonight. No one has ever, no mayor in the history of the city of Rochester has ever governed during a pandemic. No government has ever governed during a pandemic. No citizens have ever experienced living through a pandemic. And we have provided, this administration and our mayor has provided, a balanced budget with limited amount of damage to employees. We're not removing services from the people. Your garbage still will be picked up. Your water still will be as clean and as fresh as it's always been. Your police department will still respond. Your fire department will still respond. Your libraries are still open. Your rec centers are still alive and well. And I just want people to look at the glass half full as opposed to half empty. We have never have a city council that has governed during a pandemic. And we've all now have done that and are doing that. And I think that we've done a tremendous job considering the cards that we've been dealt. So I want to say hats off to the mayor, to the budget director, all of SMT, all of the city employees, especially our essential workers who never stopped working throughout this entire process. Kudos.
President Scott?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I echo many of the sentiments of my colleagues, and it would be remiss to say that we have not heard the citizens of Rochester. And I understand that the specific amounts that they are looking for are not in today's budget, but I know that as a council, we are committed to figuring that out. And we are at this time just unsure of what the specifics look like and what the costs associated are, but again, committed to figuring things out. And that being said, I would encourage our council, our administration to work with us, work with the community as we always have, and push us to call our task force more of a transition team, because I do feel that it better reflects our intentions for future change. And I ask that we require a swift turnaround for a draft plan and estimated costs associated with it, so that the community does understand that we are not just speaking about change, that we are serious about it, so that we continue on the road of showing the community, as we've done with PAB and other reforms, that we are serious and taking their comments and their requests to heart. And so we are with you, and we will ensure that we are continuing to work quickly.
Other council members?
President Scott, I'd like to say something.
Yes.
So I just want to start by acknowledging that this moment in history in this country and in Rochester, and the work that the Free the People Rock organizers have done to mobilize the city in an unprecedented way. You know, thousands marched in the street in peace to demand a new world, one where Black and brown people are not surveilled, disrespected, beaten, and killed by the police who are sworn to protect and serve them. But it didn't stop there. Those protests were translated into unprecedented civic engagement. As my colleagues have mentioned, we have received hundreds of emails and calls to City Council and the mayor. In the town hall that I hosted last night, nearly 200 people came to express their painful personal interactions with the police and their ideas for what a new vision of public safety could look like. When 911 calls are diverted to crisis intervention teams trained to respond to specific emergencies. And with less officers required, money's freed up to invest in our community and build safer and more vibrant neighborhoods by investing in them and the people who live there. A city's priorities are reflected in the budget, and removing SROs and a 4% cut for our PD is a step in the right direction, but it's not enough. Our police budget is $95 million, and adding in their pensions, we spend more on the police than we do on our schools, libraries, and youth services combined. This budget does not reflect a firm and bold commitment to reimagine and transform public safety. And this budget does not invest in our schools, housing, libraries, and workforce development or youth services to the extent that we need. These things are proven time and again to fundamentally improve not only the quality of life of our residents, but actually reduces crime. Cutting the budget by 50% would give the Joint Task Force the best chance for success. Thank you.
I'm just compelled to just put a question on the table. I've heard repeated that we spend more on police than we do on schools and libraries and something else combined. And I'm just always curious to know whether or not that's including the 119 million. But
so that number is 148 million includes the pensions. So we spend 119 on the schools and the libraries and the youth services combined.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure the 119 was in the number.
It is.
Thank you. Mayor Warren, would you like to share some comments with us?
Before I share my comments, definitely want to give the police chief an opportunity to respond. And when we talk about people's pensions, these are people that have retired after serving the city of Rochester for sometimes decades, 4 decades. And so to include their pension cost and the cost for funding or the reasoning for defunding the police is absolutely absurd. But I'll turn it over to the chief to make his comments, and then I will make my comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council President, Vice President Lightfoot, and members of the City Council. As Police Chief, I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the Rochester Police Department and as Chief of Police for every citizen in the City of Rochester. As such, I have the moral responsibility and a duty to provide for the protection and safety of every citizen who resides, works, and entertains within the City of Rochester. For the last 3 weeks, across this country and in our city, we have seen demonstrations calling for police reforms, which I am not opposed to. African Americans dying at the hands of the police have sparked a national movement across this country, taking steps to reform police departments across the nation. Within the discussion, some have voiced concerns to defund the police. Also within the discussion are many residents within our neighborhoods who have called my office and sent emails stating, Chief, do not let them defund the Rochester Police Department. Rochester is not like other cities. Do not let them balance the problems of our nation on the backs of the citizens of Rochester. What the public needs to understand is that our initial budget proposal called for a reduction of $3.7 million. Developing a comprehensive operational plan with a reduction of that magnitude already proved to be a challenge as we balance fiscal responsibility with our core mission of public safety. Any additional cuts would adversely impact our ability to provide quality police services. Furthermore, I am concerned that the potential impact of these cuts could adversely affect Black and Brown communities disproportionately. The Rochester Police Department currently has an authorized strength of 728 police officers. We currently have 16 vacant positions within our department. For the past 3 years, the average rate of retirement has been 38 police officers per year, which means by June 2021, the Rochester Police Department will have 674 police officers if this rate of retirement continues, which is 54 police officers below our authorized strength. The current budget proposal suggests only filling 19 of those 54 vacancies. What does this mean for our community? Police services provided to this community will not be the same. Historically, police officers responding to 911 calls for service have been the backbone of policing. When residents call 911, they want a police officer. Residents want us to address the quality of life issues within their neighborhoods. As of recent, residents have called my office about quality of life issues in the neighborhood of Chali Avenue and Salina Street, quality of life issues on Miller Street, quality of life issues in the Beechwood neighborhood and other neighborhoods relative to fireworks. The proposed additional reduction in staffing could have a negative impact on response time and service quality. Less officers on the road, less officers to take the next call for service, less time available to spend on each call. Additionally, the proposed additional reduction in staffing could have a negative impact on community policing. One of the primary principles of community policing is for officers to develop a relationship in the neighborhoods they serve and to address neighborhood concerns. To that point, 65% of the calls for service are answered by the assigned beat officer. This is intentional, as it was a key goal of the department's reorganization. The staffing model for the patrol reorganization was designed to provide officers time to engage in community-based activities such as foot patrols, business interactions, and community meetings. Additionally, our current staffing model allows time for officers to engage in proactive policing activities, such as removing illegal firearms from our neighborhoods. During the month of March, there were 34 firearm-related arrests. During the month of April, there were 41 firearm-related arrests. During the month of May, there were 48 firearm-related arrests. If the proposed cuts by council are enacted, I strongly believe that the reallocation of funds will have a direct impact on our current patrol responsibilities. For example, we will need to reevaluate the type of calls we respond to that may be better suited for other public service providers. Example of these calls are nonviolent behavioral issues at schools, homelessness, mental health crises, and substance abuse. Additionally, we may have to explore opportunities for increased self-reporting for nonviolent property crimes and motor vehicle accidents without injuries that may not require a physical police response. We may have to reduce the amount of staffing that we provide at unreimbursed special events throughout the city. We may have to limit the amount of training opportunities provided due to the fiscal restrictions. Despite the information I highlighted, I also understand there is a call around the nation to reform police departments, and the RPD is not immune from those conversations. We have and will continue to look inward at changes to our operating practices, improve transparency, accountability, and our overall relationship with the community in which we serve. Most notably, RPD has implemented body-worn cameras, banned chokeholds, training that requires de-escalation, created an online portal for policies and procedures to be viewed by the public to increase transparency, training that requires the use of verbal warnings, requires officers to document uses of force and immediately report such to a supervisor, require medical intervention for individuals within police custody, and holding officers accountable for not intervening. While the implementation of these policies position the RPD ahead of other departments across the nation as it relates to police reform, I acknowledge the need for continued dialogue, community input, and the implementation of evidence-based practices that will enable us to better serve this community. My record of accountability since my appointment as Chief of Police has demonstrated my willingness to embrace and enact change. Council President, I thank you for this opportunity to address council and the public on this critical issue. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate you for your service and the men and women that serve our community and the 3,000 employees that work for the city of Rochester, including our budget director and his team that put this budget together through a pandemic, as has been noted. I want to recognize the finance chair for his leadership, as well as the city council president and vice president and members of city council. And thank you all and your staff for working with us as we presented this budget. Protecting our community, our seniors, our families, and our children is my most sacred duty as the mayor of our great city. Everyone has a right to be safe on our streets, in our neighborhoods, and in their home. Ensuring safety is at the foundation of everything else we are trying to achieve. Without it, we can't create more vibrant neighborhoods. We can't create more jobs or more locally owned businesses, and kids that aren't safe don't feel safe. They can't learn. Yes, we need a police department that protects and serves and reflects the diversity in our community. And ever since I joined city government, I have worked to ensure that we've made true progress towards these goals. And there is always more work to be done. In fact, we have already achieved much of what those protesting are asking for and done so years ago. As the chief noted, we ban chokeholds, require the use of all alternative methods before using force, demand officer intervention when a colleague is in the wrong, require comprehensive reporting and take action and to enforce discipline, including termination when officers do not follow policies. We instituted and operated a body-worn camera program that is robust and forward-thinking. And this council has implemented a police accountability board that, if upheld, will be the strongest in the nation. We also remain dedicated to the community and the neighborhood policing model and creating connections between our officers and the residents that they serve. Both the chief and I were born and raised in this community, educated in its schools, and returned to this community to serve. And in the case you have noticed, and in case you haven't noticed, I should say, we're both Black. We are keenly aware of the challenges we face as a race and have faced in this country. We are not immune to the systematic and institutional racism or the barriers that people of color have faced and continue to face. We are both committed to ensuring that challenges to this system come through the process that will not just treat symptoms, but actually cure the disease. I share the anger and frustration at the deaths of George Floyd, Rashard Brooks, Breonna Taylor, and the countless others that have been murdered. But I also share with you that our city, the city of Rochester, is an example of how government can and must respond, not through screaming or platitudes, but through, as the great Shirley Chisholm said, implementing ideas that create real change. We reform and we remain at the forefront of implementing reform for our police department so that we can continue to protect and serve the community while respecting the dignity of our residents, whether they're Black, white, or brown. I know that some of our officers have stepped outside the lines, but when they do, this chief has held them accountable, which has included discipline and termination of employment. Further, when they have not done wrong, and when they have done the right thing, he has stood by them to encourage them to continue to serve nobly. And I agree with many advocates and members of council that more must be done, that we need to do more than simply police our community. I've been shouting from the rooftops that we must improve our schools and provide our children with a fighting chance at life. And I am hopeful that Dr. Myers Small will be given the tools and the power she needs in order to ensure that every child can reach their fullest potential. We must also expand healthcare, especially mental health care, because the trauma that is being experienced across the board must be dealt with. We must provide addiction services, more job training, more access to capital for businesses of color, more quality daycare and other services to truly uplift our Black and brown and poor residents. All of these things are also fundamental to a safer city. So let me be clear. These are not services and solutions that the city can provide its residents alone. It will take all of us, including our county, state, not-for-profit agencies, and businesses to truly deliver change. In this time, we should all be asking ourselves, what can we do to solve the systematic racism and other barriers that have plagued Black and brown people for 400 years? We all must change. Our community has a history of trying to do so, but we need to look at these problems from a new perspective. In our community, the not-for-profit sector is $1 billion industry. If you have an issue in Rochester, we have a program that is allegedly supposed to fix it. Part of the reason we are talking about systems redesign in a not-for-profit sphere is because this $1 billion industry is failing our community. These organizations need to reflect our community, and their leadership needs to be diverse as those they serve. This is a change we need. Businesses need to look at their management and promote a more diverse workforce, as Dr. Minto wrote in her letter to the editor this past weekend. One thing our city doesn't need is any member of this council failing to speak the truth, particularly anyone stating that the city funds the police more than anything else. Simply put, it is false. And you should have known that it was false when you said it. That ignorance should be disqualifying. And if you knew it was false when you said it, then you need to admit it and apologize. The truth is, the police department in the city of Rochester's budget is funded at $95.8 million. It accounts for approximately 18% of our total budget. Our contribution to our schools, along with our funding to recreation, youth services, and our libraries total $143.9 million, over 50% more than we spend on our police. If you include the pension costs for all of our employees, then those costs far exceed the police budget. I don't know if it's ignorance or malice, but one thing it doesn't bring is concrete solutions to the table. Those spreading falsehoods choose to incite. And it reminds me of what my community has been facing for generations. People who promote themselves and the existing broken system, rather than empowering Black and Brown people to truly change the system. Rather than support a total reset for our schools, as advocated by the distinguished educator, a brown man, they support the status quo. Rather than allow us a level playing field where we can excel, they want to dictate the rules to meet their needs. Their broken approach will always be a barrier. It will always keep Black and Brown people stuck in a system, a broken system for another generation. As mayor, I will not allow this to occur. We are empowering our residents through programs like the Financial Empowerment Center, the Office of Community Wealth Building, and Kiva. We will increase Black and Brown home ownership and business ownership. We will ensure that Black and Brown people can lift themselves out of poverty. We're turning the corner. We are done with the tired ideas that constantly keep us asking for a handout instead of truly giving us a hand up. So let me be clear. What I will not do is support the lies and exploitation of our community. I live being Black in America every day. My grandparents lived it. My parents lived it. My husband lives it. My daughter lives it. So one thing you will not teach me is how to survive being Black. I know my skin color is a weapon to some people, and in of itself threatens the very fragility of other folks. Black and Brown people don't need a savior. We are capable of saving ourselves. The strongest of us survived the Middle Passage, slavery, Jim Crow, and now once and for all, we will deal with racism in America. And we welcome all who will join us in good faith in this monumental task. An equitable playing field, an opportunity for a better life for ourselves and those we love. That's what we want. That's what we always wanted. A life, a chance by which we all can strive to become the best that we can be, to live to our fullest potential and fulfill our dreams. I spent my career fighting for just that, for my daughter and the rest of the children of our city. Unfortunately, so far in this city, 14 people this year have been forever denied their chance, and their lives have been taken, and their families continue to suffer. Rashad Snowden, Norris J., Pedro Santiago, Trey Sloan, Kathy Henrick, Gerard Jones, Lorenzo Wade, Justin McMillan, Sharnette Chenera, Nathan Bernard, Todd Hamilton, Dakota Pulaski, George Vanilla, and just this past weekend, Trenton Cook. Their loss should not be forgotten. I will say their names. I will work hard to ensure that their names were not lost in vain. I will honor them by working hard every day to dismantle the institutional and systematic barriers that placed them and their lives in harm's way. And we all suffer due to those barriers. I will keep working to implement the ideas so that we can all feel safe and lift each other up. There are no easy fixes here. It takes hard work, sensible minds, and true hearts to end the systematic racism we see in our community. I am committed to reimagining how we police, where we provide affordable housing, how we educate our kids, how we provide healthcare to our residents and beyond. And I hope that this council and our collective community is prepared to do so as well. I look forward to continuing to work with you in an honest and productive manner. Thank you, and God bless you and the people of our city.
Thank you for your words, Mayor. I think it's easy to dismiss my words as lies and my voice as being a white savior, but I am echoing the words of people of color in this community who are crying out for change. And to include the pensions, I think is fair, since many times officers pad their pensions the last 3 years by making as much as $56,000 in overtime, and they take that into the retirement with them. Thank you.
You didn't include the pension for the other employees. And so that doesn't include the
Yes,
pension for
I
the
did.
DRIVES workers. It doesn't include the pensions for the libraries. It doesn't include the pensions for the other workers in the city. And I'm
I
not
actually
going to go
did.
back and
I
forth
did
with you.
include those.
I may,
I'll send you the numbers.
the numbers don't lie. You're wrong. And you owe this community an apology.
I'll send you the numbers.
We
Thank
have
you.
them.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all. Now let's vote on introductory number 237 as amended. Legislation adopting the budget estimates for municipal purposes for the 2020-21 fiscal year. Appropriation of sums set forth herein and approving commercial refuse fees. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
I'm sorry, I
Did we
think the
vote on
council member,
237?
we are voting on 237 right now.
237.
The budget.
So the
Right.
answer, then I'm a no.
Okay.
Oh,
Motion,
no, I'm sorry, no. For Councilmember Lupian.
Yes.
motion
Okay, the
carries.
clerk will enter 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Thank you. I'll call on Finance Chair Evans for a motion on introductory number 238, legislation adopting the budget estimates for school purposes for the 2020-21 fiscal year and appropriation of funds set forth therein.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to discharge from committee item number 238.
I second that motion, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 238, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Councilmember Harris has to abstain on this.
Abstained, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Motion carries 801.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 801 into the record with Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Now, before we vote on introductory number 238, I'd offer my colleagues a moment to make a statement regarding their vote, if so desired.
Yes, Madam President. I just want to say that, obviously this is an area that I'm intimately familiar with, having come from across the street. It seems like a lifetime ago over at the Rochester City School District, and I know that there are challenges that they have and will continue to have. But I just want to say that as your finance chair, one of the things that is important to me is the overall fiscal health of the city. So while the district submitted a budget to us that included $10 million and $10 million for the waiver of capital improvement costs, while that's not ideal, I have to remember that it is up to us to make sure that we protect the fiscal health of our community. And in many ways, the Rochester City School District, although they are a separate entity, and it has been ruled several times that we do not control their operations, unfortunately, we do have to deal with any consequences as it relates to how they handle those finances. And for that reason, I'll be voting in favor of introductory number 238. I know my colleagues will vote their conscience, but for me, I look at this from a larger picture, and I'm looking at it in the context of the overall fiscal health of our city, and what the district does and what we do to them has a large impact on us. As you know, we have a RAND that we are going to be voting on that we voted on related to the district, and that has to enter into the overall discussion as we talk about the overall district's finances. So while I am continuously having concerns about the district and how they handle their finances, at this point, I will be voting in the affirmative on introductory number 238.
Additional comments? Vice President Lightfoot.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to express my vote. I will be voting no on this particular budget item. Last year, I stood and I voted no on the same item last year, and I did it because at that time, Commissioner LeBron had wrote a letter and kind of whistleblowed the fact that there were some discrepancies in the city school district budget. Since time, we found out through this distinguished educator and through the audits that this budget is still not structurally balanced. And I think, part of my responsibility and our responsibility as leaders is to make sure that we're voting for our fiscal responsibilities and make sure that we're providing a balanced budget as we are doing with our city budget that I voted yes for. But to vote for a structurally unbalanced budget, to me, especially when we're told that the budget is going to pass anyway. So even regardless of how we vote tonight, we're told that our Rochester City School District budget will continually go forward regardless. So I think it's important that my statement is consistent with last year, that I will not continually to give a blank check with my vote to the Rochester City School District, and it has no bearing or disrespect to the new superintendent. This was not her fault, but I think as to be a fiscally responsible leader in this community, that I can't say that I'm voting yes for something that is structurally, financially unstable. And we still have yet to see how it's going to stabilize itself in the future. So because of that, I will be voting no.
Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, President Scott. I want so badly to provide a yes vote for tonight's vote on the school district budget. Unfortunately, I cannot. Last year, I also was a no on the budget, and I do understand that they are working hard to make changes, but during our budget hearings, I have yet to hear enough conversation around the actual achievements and student outcomes and how the decisions that are being made actually tie to the results of our children being educated and being able to move on as fruitful adults. Much of the discussion I understand is administrative, but I still have yet to see how decisions made tie to student achievement. There are a number of budget items that require new FTE positions that I still do not understand how they affect student achievement. I have seen the BLL, bilingual education, multilingual departments decimated over the last year and a half with still no solid plan for a population that represents 33% of the district and growing. And unfortunately at this time, it is just unacceptable for me. And so I am hopeful that with new leadership that things will begin to change in a more drastic and more consistent way. But at this time, I am a no.
Thank you, Councilmember Patterson.
Thank you. Question for the budget director. Mr. Wagner, we just voted on 2 revenue anticipation notes a few minutes ago. We passed them in the affirmative. Would voting down the school district budget as presented send a negative message to the capital markets that we were going to be sending these revenue anticipation notes to?
So that's a hard question to answer, frankly, Councilman. I did speak to our financial advisor about that very issue on the possibility the council might vote it down. Given the financial crisis that we're in, we believe the economic situation, has far more of an impact on things than whether council votes no on the district budget when we go to market here. So there's no certainty to that, but we don't believe that it would have a significant impact.
Okay, so realistically then, whether, regardless of how we vote, you really don't see it as having a significant impact on our ability to borrow going forward. It is what it is.
Correct. So long as as the budget is deemed adopted as of June 30th, yes, that's our view.
Okay, and for the record, regardless of whether or not this budget passes this item passes at this time, unless the council amends the item or unless the mayor chooses to amend the item will be adopted as of the 30th. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, and I'll ask Tim Curtin to confirm that.
Yes, Councilman, the budget will be, if you do not pass the budget by the affirmative vote of council members, the budget as presented to the mayor will be implemented as the school district's budget for the following fiscal year.
Okay.
Opportunity to amend it, if you choose not to, then it will go into effect regardless of whether or not you would affirmatively approve it.
All right. Well, look, at our budget hearing with the school district, understanding that they are in crisis, as all municipal governments are, there was some basic questions that just couldn't be answered. You know, with the dollars that they're spending, you know, it's reasonable to expect that our kids will be educated. In good times, that has not happened. I hope that this new superintendent with state oversight will be able to accomplish that. But I believe a no vote sends a clear message that we are watching. We're not happy, we're not satisfied with what we're seeing and what we've been getting, and that we expect no, we expect better. So I will be voting no. Thank you.
Councilmember Gruber.
Thank you, President Scott. A lot of you probably know I just had my first child. He's almost 3 months old, and I'm stating for the record right here that I am planning on sending that young boy to the Rochester City School District. I want the school district to succeed. I have a great deal of confidence in the new superintendent. I have a great deal of confidence in the new monitor, and I wish them the best of luck. However, there is no way that I can possibly vote yes on a budget that was ultimately created by Terry Dade while he was looking for another job, a budget that was created by the budget director, Bob Franklin, while he was looking for another job. And I don't believe for a moment that this budget offers the superintendent or the monitor an opportunity to be as successful as we want them to be. And I'm just going to give one example of what frustrates me so much about this, because the city school district has found a way to somehow take their issues and bring it outward into the community. And that's specifically in relation to the pre-K with CBOs that was working in this community. And I say this as someone who is a proud alumni as a Head Start teacher on Hudson Avenue, 2008. It's where I first cut my teeth as a working professional. It is a good program. Rochester Child First Network, I could go on and on of all the programs that are good. The superintendent decided to cut those CBO slots to take them in-house to the school district for reasons that every time he was asked gave a different reason. And so by the end, he was claiming that it was simply so they could continue to use the facilities they were closing because of his concern that this city council would sell those buildings to some charter school. Now, let me state for the record, this is not New York City. Any charter school that wants to open in the city of Rochester is not going to be limited by their real estate. Superintendent Dade never once reached out to us on council and asked for a conversation about this. Superintendent Dade never once expressed his concern and said, how can we work together? And that is a recipe for absolute disaster. So I cannot in good faith support a budget that was created by former Superintendent Dade, nor by the former budget director, Bob Franklin. But I want it to be clear and stated for the record that myself, my wife, and my son are actively rooting for the school district to be successful, and I will do anything in my power to make that happen. But I will be a no vote tonight.
Thank you. So few months ago, we reached out to the governor's office and SCD and others. We're looking for help when it was clear that the school district had this gaping hole. And we were told, we were reminded, you all approve that budget every year, knowing that they're in bad shape. We went so far as to ask for an audit, a review from the state comptroller's office. Comptroller told us the budget is structurally imbalanced. They did better, but it's still in bad shape. What he said was, the budget remains structurally imbalanced because district officials are relying on city council to approve a waiver to use $10 million for operation expenditures rather than capital purposes. Therefore, unless there is additional revenue or appropriation reductions, this will be necessary in future budgets. In other words, they're going to come back every year to get a waiver to find $10 million because it's still not balanced. So we cannot in good faith vote in favor of a budget when we have an independent review that identifies it as structurally imbalanced. According to our city charter, if we, the council, fail to approve the school district budget, the version that's submitted to the mayor and council becomes a district budget for the ensuing year. So I know the concern is by not approving it, we're going to pull the legs from under the new superintendent and the district as a whole, and that's not the case. The budget will go ahead to the mayor and it will be approved and we will go forward. But we will go forward with the notion, with the fact that we've looked at this and we're putting the district on notice. We cannot continue in this fashion. Now, let us vote on introductory number 238, legislation adopting the budget estimates for school purposes for the 2020-21 fiscal year. Appropriation of sums set forth herein. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Oh, sorry, nay.
Aye.
It's a habit.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
There you go, yeah, there you go.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
No.
Councilmember Harris,
Abstain.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
No.
Councilmember Patterson,
No.
Councilmember Pio,
No.
Vice President Lightfoot,
No.
President Scott.
No. The introductory fails 117, is that right?
171.
17, I always do that. I get it reversed.
The clerk will enter the negative vote of 1-7 with Councilmember Ortiz, Councilmember Gruber, Councilmember Patterson, Councilmember Pio, Vice President Lightfoot, and President Scott voting no. Councilmember Harris abstaining.
You also, I think, did you say Councilmember Lupian was voting no? I was trying to track it, but it was going in.
And Councilmember Lupian, if I didn't include her, she's voting no. So that's 1-7-1.
Correct.
Finance Chair Evans for a motion on introductory number 239, legislation levying taxes for municipal purposes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30, 2021.
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion that we discharge item number 239 from committee.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 239, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Now let's vote on introductory number 239. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Call on Finance Chair Evans for a motion on introductory number 240, legislation levying taxes for school purposes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and expiring June 30, 2021.
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion that we discharge item number 240 from committee.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 240, please say aye.
Aye.
Yes,
All op-
abstain. Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Yes, you should abstain on, no, you should abstain on that one, Councilmember Harris.
Oh, okay.
all opposed? Say nay. Madam Clerk.
Okay, I'm sorry, did Councilmember Harris abstain on that?
Yes.
She did.
Okay. The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-0-1 into the record with Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Now let's vote on introductory number 240. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed, say nay.
Abstain.
Motion carries 801.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-0-1 into the record with Councilmember Harris abstaining.
Finance Chair Evans, a motion on 241, a local improvement ordinance for street cleaning, street and sidewalk snow removal, and hazardous sidewalk repair.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I make a motion to discharge finance item number 241 from committee.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 241, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Now let's vote on introductory number 241. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes, motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Call on Finance Chair Evans for a motion on introductory number 242, legislation confirming the assessments, amounts, and charges to be inserted on the tax rolls.
Yes, Madam President, I make a motion that finance item number 241 be discharged from committee.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 242, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Now let's vote on introductory number 242. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Call on Finance Chair Evans, a motion on introductory number 243. 243.
Yes.
Legislation
Yes.
amending the municipal code with respect to parking fees.
Yes, thank you, Madam President, and I make a motion that item number 243 be discharged from committee.
I second that, Madam President.
All in favor of discharging introductory number 243, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Now let's vote on introductory number 243. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Councilmember Patterson, the Neighborhood and Business Development Committee report, please.
Good evening. The Neighborhood and Business Development Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 194, authorizing the sale of real estate. Introductory number 195, authorizing agreements for appraisal services. Introductory number 197, authorizing the acquisition by negotiation or condemnation of permanent water line easements over 275 East Avenue, 78 Rockwood Street, 80 Rockwood Street, and 625 South Goodman Street. Introductory number 198, authorizing funding for the demolition program. Introductory number 199, appropriating funds for the emergency assistance program. Introductory number 200, authorizing funding and an amendatory agreement for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. Introductory number 201, amending ordinances number 2019-171 and 2018-390 to increase funding for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. Introductory number 203, authorizing funding and agreements related to the 2020 through 21 Street Liaison Program. Introductory number 204, appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for tenant and landlord services. Introductory number 205, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for foreclosure prevention program. Introductory number 206, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for Home Rochester Program Management and Community Housing Development Organization (CHODO) Reserve Program. Introductory number 207, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the training program. Introductory number 208, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS program. Introductory number 209, appropriating funds and authorizing agreement for the Aging in Place program. Introductory number 210, appropriating funds and authorizing agreement for the Legal Services for Seniors program. Introductory number 211, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Emergency Solutions Grant. Introductory number 212, authorizing the sale of real estate and grant agreement with Flower City Habitat for Humanity. Introductory number 213, appropriating funds for the Business Development Financial Assistance Program. Introductory number 214, authorizing an amendatory lease agreement with Bill Graves, Inc. Introductory number 215, appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Home Buyer Assistance Program. Introductory number 216, appropriating Emergency Solution Grant, coronavirus funds, and authorizing agreements for additional services for the homeless and those at risk of homelessness. Introductory number 217, appropriating funds for project development programs. Introductory number 218, amending ordinance number 2020-96 relating to the Pueblo Nuevo Phase 1 project. The Neighborhood and Business Development Committee recommends for consideration the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 196, determinations and findings related to the acquisition of permanent water line easements over 275 East Avenue, 78 Rockwood Street, 80 Rockwood Street, and 625 South Goodman Street. Introductory number 202, amending the zoning map for 1 through 5, 7 through 9, 11 through 15, 4 through 6, 8 through 8.5, and 10 Laura Street, and 1240 and 1252 East Main Street. This report is respectfully submitted by myself, Michael A. Patterson, Council members Mary Lupian, Jacqueline Ortiz, and Council Vice President Willie J. Lightfoot, and Council President Loretta C. Scott.
Thank you, Councilmember Patterson. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 194, legislation for the sale of 2 properties. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 195, legislation authorizing agreements for appraisal services. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 196, legislation for determinations and findings relating to acquisition of permanent water line easements over various properties. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 197, legislation authorizing the acquisition by negotiation or condemnation of permanent water line easements over various properties. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 198, legislation authorizing funds for the demolition program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 199, legislation appropriating funds for the emergency assistance program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 200, legislation authorizing funding and an amendatory agreement for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 201, legislation amending ordinances 2019-171 and 2018-390 to increase funding for the Housing Rehabilitation Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 202, legislation amending the zoning map for multiple properties on Laura Street and East Main Street. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-0-1.
Sorry, was that Councilmember Lupien?
8-1.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do it every time, don't I?
That's all right.
So
I'm
a
here
roll
to,
call-
I'm
roll
here to,
call vote,
I'm here to
please.
have your back.
Oh, thank you. Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Okay. Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupien,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Peel,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes, ma'am.
President Scott.
Yes.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupien voting no.
Introductory number 203, legislation authorizing funding and agreements for the Street Liaison Program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Sorry, was that Councilmember Lupien?
Was there a nay?
I thought I heard a nay. Did I hear a nay?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. All right. The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 204, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for tenant and landlord services. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 205, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the foreclosure prevention program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 206, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for Home Rochester Program Management and Community Housing Development Organization Reserve Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 207, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Home Buyer Training Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 208, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the HOP4 program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 209, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for the Aging in Place program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 210, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for the Legal Services for Seniors program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 211, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Emergency Solutions Grant Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 212, legislation authorizing the sale of real estate and a grant agreement with Flower City Habitat for Humanity. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Was there another motion? Motion carried 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 213, legislation appropriating funds for the Business Development Financial Assistance Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 214, legislation authorizing an amendatory lease agreement with Bill Grays. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 215, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for the Home Buyer Assistance Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 216, legislation appropriating emergency solutions grants, coronavirus funds, and authorizing agreements. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 217, legislation appropriating funds for the Project Development Program. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 8-1-0. I got it right this time, right?
Yes.
All right.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 into the record with Councilmember Lupien voting no.
Introductory number 218, legislation amending ordinance 2020-96 relating to the Pueblo Nuevo Phase 1 project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Councilmember Gruber, the Parks and Public Works Committee report, please.
Thank you, President Scott. Before I read the report, I'd like to just take a moment of privilege to congratulate Mayor Warren, Commissioner Jones, the Manager of Environmental Quality, Ann Spalding, and the whole DES team. We received notice last week that 3 years early, the city has surpassed our Better Buildings Challenge goal. In 2009, we set a goal of a 20% energy savings by 2022. By the end of last year, 2019, we had already achieved 23% energy savings. This news and the fact that we're about to announce our CCA administrator is something to truly celebrate as we move forward in our climate action plan. So I just want to say kudos to the team.
Kudos.
And with that, I'm going to read the Parks and Public Works Committee. We recommend for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 219, authorizing an agreement for a community choice aggregation administrator. Introductory number 220, a bond ordinance of the City of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $240,000 bonds of said city to finance the costs of environmental remediation improvements at the Rochester Fire Academy site in the city. Introductory number 221, authorizing a grant agreement for greenhouse gas inventory updates and a heat emergency plan. Introductory number 223, authorizing an agreement for the Lincoln Branch Library reconfiguration schematic design. Introductory number 225, authorizing an appropriation and amending ordinance number 2019-201 for the State Street reconstruction project. Introductory number 226, authorizing an agreement for University Firehouse Truck Bay alteration. Introductory number 227, a bond ordinance of the city of Rochester, New York, authorizing the issuance of $342,000 bonds of said city to finance costs of the University Firehouse Truck Bay alteration. Introductory number 228, authorizing agreements for the West River Wall Segment 1 project. Introductory number 229, authorizing an intermunicipal agreement for the Resiliency and Economic Development Initiative projects along the east side of the Genesee River. BJ, the next page seems to have a typo, but I'm assuming that those 222 and 224 are mine as well, correct?
I'm not totally positive. Let me pull that up. Hazel, do you have a sense of that? I know that the clerk's office drafts that document.
Yes, they are yours, Councilmember
Okay.
Gruber.
So the Parks and Public Works Committee recommends for consideration the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 222, amending the official map and authorizing pavement changes to prohibit the use of motor vehicles and repurpose a portion of Laura Street. And finally, introductory number 224, approving geometric changes on Barrington Street related to Rochester City School District Francis Parker School number 23. This report was respectfully submitted by Councilmember Malik Evans, Councilmember Jose Pio, Council Vice President Willie Lightfoot, Council President Loretta Scott, and myself, Councilmember Mitch Gruber.
Thank you, Councilmember Gruber. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 219, legislation authorizing an agreement for a community choice aggregation administrator. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And was all opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 220, a bond ordinance to finance the environmental remediation improvements at the Rochester Fire Academy site. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 221, legislation authorizing a grant agreement for greenhouse gas inventory updates and a heat emergency plan. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 222, legislation amending the official map and authorizing pavement changes to prohibit the use of motor vehicles and repurpose a portion of Laura Street. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
No.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Yes.
President Scott.
Yes, motion carries 8-1-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 8-1 with Councilmember Lupian voting no.
Introductory number 223, legislation authorizing an agreement for the Lincoln Branch Library reconfiguration design. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 224, legislation approving geometric changes on Barrington Street related to our CSD school number 23. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 225, legislation authorizing an appropriation and amending ordinance number 2019-201 for the state Street Reconstruction Project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 226, legislation authorizing an agreement for University Firehouse Truck Bay alteration. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 227, a bond ordinance to finance costs of the University House Truck Bay alteration. This requires a roll call.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Councilmember Gruber,
Yes.
Councilmember Harris,
Yes.
Councilmember Lupian,
Yes.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Yes.
Councilmember Patterson,
Yes.
Councilmember Pio,
Yes.
Vice President Lightfoot,
Truck 4, yes.
President Scott.
Yes. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 228, legislation authorizing agreements for the West River Wall Project. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 229, legislation authorizing an intermunicipal agreement for the Resiliency and Economic Development Initiative. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Vice President Lightfoot, the Public Safety, Youth and Recreation Committee report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. To the Council, the Public Safety, Youth and Recreation Committee recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 230, appropriating federal forfeiture funds to support an anti-gun violence campaign. Introductory number 231, appropriating funds and authorizing an agreement for veteran services. Introduction number 232, authorizing an agreement related to BizKids Youth Entrepreneurship Program. Introduction number 233, authorizing funding and agreement for the 2020 Summer Food Service Program. This respectfully submitted by Councilmember Mitch Gruber, Councilwoman Lachey D. Harris, Councilwoman Jacqueline Ortiz, Council President Loretta C. Scott, and myself, Willie J. Lightfoot.
Thank you, Vice President Lightfoot. That report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 230, legislation appropriating federal forfeiture funds to support an anti-gun violence campaign. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
Clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 231, legislation appropriating funds and authorizing agreements for veterinary services. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 232, legislation authorizing an agreement relating to BizKids Youth Entrepreneurship Program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
Introductory number 233, legislation authorizing funding and agreements for the 2020 Summer Food Service Program. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Abstention.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. The motion carries 8-0-1. Right.
Clerk will
Okay.
enter the affirmative vote of 8-0-1 into the record with Councilmember Gruber abstaining.
I will now give the report of the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole recommends for adoption the following entitled legislation. Introductory number 245, a resolution approving appointments to the Police Accountability Board. This report is respectfully submitted by Council members Malik D. Evans, Mitch Gruber, Lachey D. Harris, Mary Lupian, Jacqueline Ortiz, Michael A. Patterson, Jose Pio, Vice President Willie J. Lightfoot, and myself, Council President Loretta C. Scott. This report will be received, filed, and published, and we'll proceed with the vote. Introductory number 245, a resolution approving appointments to the Police Accountability Board. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion carries 9-0.
The clerk will enter the affirmative vote of 9-0 into the record.
So before we end tonight's meeting, I'd like to extend my thanks to Finance Chair Evans, the hardest working finance chair in council business.
Y'all killed me. I would have raised.
Who led us through a very difficult budget season, even up to and including today, all day today. He's been at it. He's been working. We're gonna have to give him a little raise or something. And to the city council and the clerk staff for a tremendous amount of work that they've put in. And of course, our BJ, somebody said today they wanted to clone BJ and get 2 or 3 of him because we've got him pretty well stretched. Oh, that was you, Jackie. Yeah, we got him pretty well stretched out. So, you know, we appreciate the mayor because she's got this phenomenal team. She's got people like Chris Wagner, who really, Chris has brought it this year. Well, he brings it every year, but he really brought it this year. And as Vice President Lightfoot would remind us, we did all this during a pandemic. So we don't even know if the world was right, but we were getting the work done. So we definitely appreciate all of the work that has gone into this. We are mindful of who we are and where we are and what we've been called on to do. And I thank you all so very, very much for all of the hard work you've done on this year on the budget. With that, I have nothing further to say, Madam.
Well, Madam President, we can't let you slide out without giving honor to you, because there has to be a head, right? And so you are our leader and our head, and you've done a tremendous job of leading us throughout this pandemic. And I just want you to know on behalf of council, we appreciate you, we love you, and we thank you for your service.
Thank you so very much. Thank you very much. So Mayor, you don't need to do anything except pass the collection plate or something. So we're good. So, all right, thank you. The meeting is now adjourned.
We're good. We're good. Take care, everyone.